The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 9 Ending Explained. The penultimate episode has finally arrived. After the events that unfolded last week, with Serena going to live at the Wheelers as a handmaid as part of a scheme, and the location of Hannah being found inside of the school for wives, this episode showed us that some things do go to plan whilst some others don't. In Serena's case anyway, it proved to be successful. With the episode titled Allegiance, we saw the many different loyalties that all of the main characters in the show had as we built to the season finale and the conflict that also lied within some. So with that, I thought I'd recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. So let's get into it. Here is The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 9 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. This episode of the show was split evenly across Toronto and Gilead as we saw the majority of the main characters get an even share of screen time for the first time in a long while. The show went back to its core roots, which is around the strengthening of Gilead and also June's desire to get her daughter back, which didn't go as smoothly as anticipated. I'm going to break this video down by the main character arcs in the episode. June. In this episode, we saw June go from being extremely excited and optimistic to heartbroken without hope, and then finishing back where she started in being optimistic that she'll be able to get her daughter back. This was all within the space of 45 minutes. June in this episode genuinely believed that she was getting her daughter Hannah back when the mission was underway. There were some beautiful close-ups of June's face where she was expressing sheer emotion, and it would then cut to Hannah inside of the school for wives, where she was signing a drawing with the name Hannah, showing that she still sees herself as Hannah and not Agnes. This has always been a question on many of our minds for the past few weeks. Is she conforming to Gilead's ways? As she spent her formative years in Gilead, will she want to return home? But it's clear to see that Hannah is still the sole individual that's there, and not Agnes. She's just doing it as a means to survive, mirroring how June was inside of Gilead and showing the strength that she holds, just like her mother. With the failed rescue attempt, we saw that June was still being offered to go to New Bethlehem and start her new life where she'd be able to visit Hannah, but this was something that she didn't view as a viable option, understandably. However, with the lack of safety being something in Toronto, I feel we could potentially see June take this offer up in the season finale, as there's quite literally nowhere else she can go. The heartbreak and lack of hope that she was emitting following this call was so sad to see. She believed that she was getting her daughter back, and instead, Gilead did an act of war in taking down 3 planes that were flying in, leading her to be back to square one. We had an opposite shot to last week. The episode closed with Hannah planting flowers in a garden, showing life and an opportunity to build, whereas in this week's episode we had June destroying some, showing that it was over. The most poignant scene for June this week was when she met with Nick. The last we saw of them interacting with each other was on the phone in episode 3, when Nick mentioned how he wouldn't be able to speak with her for a while as Mackenzie was growing suspicious. However, we saw them meet in person this time. We saw her admit her love for Nick, which was something that I didn't think would actually be there considering how close she'd gotten to Luke since she returned home, but it's something that's still deeply embedded within her. June uttered the line, "Daughters look to their fathers, set an example." This could quite literally be the final thing that June says to him, as if he does rebel, there will be consequences. So this has definitely cemented the idea in my head that Nick won't make it out of the season alive. He'll die for who he truly loves, his daughter Nicole and June, fighting for their safety, especially now with the commanders wanting to deal with June. In the closing moments of the episode, June got the final scene, and it was her helping the daughter of one of the victims, which was Elijah, who we met in the first episode. I thought this spoke a lot. It spoke of the death and devastation that's coming at the hands of trying to retrieve Hannah, but with the shots being fired at the American flag, it also showed that war is looming. This could have been done by a Canadian who was chanting hateful comments during the vigil, or it could have been arranged by the commanders as we last heard them mention how they wanted to deal with June. It's an act of aggression that will most likely now be met with retaliation, and I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen. Serena. As much as I shouldn't, Serena's redemption arc is something that I'm all for. Last week, we saw her go into the Wheelers' house as a way out of the detention center, and this meant that she had to act as a handmaid so that she could get close to her newborn Noah. In this week's episode, we saw her seize an opportunity to see an escape and for her plan to get underway. The former embassy inside of Toronto had been turned into a fertility clinic, and Serena requested if she could go, which was met with rejection from Mrs. Wheeler. However, during the night, we saw that she spoke with Mr. Wheeler and he granted her permission to do so. It was here where we saw the violence that we always knew was inside of Mrs. Wheeler come out when she hit Serena after finding out that she went to her husband. Mrs. Wheeler is jealous of Serena. It's clear to see. The belittling, physical violence, passive aggression, and want to control shows the power trip and intimidation that she tries to emit. But moments such as Serena stepping in front of Mrs. Wheeler as she tries to leave and stating her full name shows that she doesn't have the control that she thinks she does, and Serena is still a strong individual. The nurse that is within the Wheelers' house is vital to Serena's plan, and we saw the sympathy that she held for Serena. Serena went to feed Noah, which we knew was never going to be the case. She ran through the fire door, which sounded the alarm, and she managed to get into a car and drive off to the left, showing that they were heading in the opposite direction. I have no inclination as to where they could be going, but I sense she may be going to Twello's. They had a connection at the start of the season, and she could be looking for protection, and feel like she'll get that there. I hope she does anyway, because I do quite like them together. Commander Lawrence. Commander Lawrence is a confused individual. He wants to right the wrongs of the past with New Bethlehem, and he's now seen an opportunity to garner more respect from his peers by marrying Mrs. Putnam, something we know deep down he doesn't want to do. Lawrence has never really conformed to the traditional behavior of a commander, and has always been more human, but it seems in his attempt to rise in popularity and create his new project, he's losing his humanity. His wedding ring was a key focus long before it was honed in on in the final shot. He's never truly got over the loss of his wife, and we saw the hurt that he was feeling when June was speaking about her. I believe Mrs. Putnam knows that he doesn't really want to be with her as well. I feel this could be a bad decision for Lawrence. We heard Mrs. Putnam mention to Aunt Lydia about him killing Commander Putnam in front of her, and with Lawrence not conforming to traditional physical levels of intimacy with others in the past, she could look to seek revenge. Lawrence wants what's best for the people and to step away from how Gilead is currently perceived. His fish-out-of-water appearance when standing with the other commanders is clear to see. I just hope he does the right thing in the end. I thought this week's episode was a good one. The ending came out of nowhere and I didn't expect it at all. June is no closer to retrieving Hannah than what she was at the start of the season, but she's definitely got people after her. And it looks as though Serena is on her way to actually getting a happy ending. Commander Lawrence and Nick are looking like they could grow opposing views on June and the help that they're willing to offer. And I feel it could be the downfall of Nick. An Obi-Wan and Anakin-esque master and apprentice betrayal. We know that there could be some potential worries about Nick's unborn child due to the genetic issues that were mentioned, which was something that we didn't hear anything else about, so I'm intrigued to see what's going on there. The final episode is well and truly upon us, and it's a shame that this season is drawing to an end, but I can't wait to see how it's all going to finish. So, there you have it, The Handmaid's Tale Season 5 Episode 9 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this episode? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.